20% failure rate was too high. He might even have the possibility of being killed. Hanju couldn't help but think of the experience of playing games for ordinary people in his previous life. If the chance of strengthening was less than 100%, there was no difference between a 1% and 90% success rate. Moreover, he was facing an enemy in reality. He had to be even more cautious. He had to kill the ancient desolate divine spirit with at least 100% confidence before he could attack. I'll let you live for a while longer, Hanju thought silently. The ancient desolate divine spirit had to die. The ultimate god of punishment could be imprisoned in the primordial heavenly prison. It was impossible for Hanju to enslave all the enemies. That would easily expose the primordial heavenly prison and not be a deterrent. An enemy had to die to show that the price of provoking him was eternal damnation. Hanju checked the emails. Your disciple Dao Sovereign's body has been baptized by the ancient desolate spring. His physical potential has increased dramatically. Your disciple Zhao Xuanyuan's body. Your disciple Zhou Fan's body has been baptized by the ancient desolate spring. His physical potential has increased dramatically. Your descendant Han Yu's body has been baptized by the ancient desolate spring. His physical potential has increased dramatically. Your good friend Huang Zuntian has absorbed the power of the Great Tao Providence Divine Authority and attained the Great Tao. Your good friend Foolish Sword Sage encountered your enemy, Ancestor Tian Su, and was severely injured. All the geniuses captured in the Ancient Desolate were baptized by the Ancient Desolate Spring. TSK, was this still an opportunity? These geniuses would benefit from a disaster as long as someone could kill the ancient desolate divine spirit. Hanju thought silently. There was another possibility. After this, it would be difficult to kill the ancient desolate divine spirit because these geniuses were his clones. However, it was fine. The Dark Forbidden Lord would take action if the Divine Might Heavenly Sage couldn't deal with the enemy. Hanju was relieved after reading all the emails and confirming that no good friends had died. Those who could enter his circle of friends were all special existences. They were all very difficult to kill. He didn't care about the mortals and disciples who had a favorable impression and hatred towards him at a glance. After surviving the attack of the Tao Creator, the ancient desolate divine spirit looked around the chaos. Other than Hanju, he really couldn't find an opponent. Hanju stopped thinking and continued cultivating. He had to reach the perfected Great Tao Supreme Realm first. Circular platforms floated above the clouds under the blue sky. On one of the vast circular platforms, dozens of Great Tao divine spirits gathered. The 5 great divine punishers also came. They were chatting with each other and waiting for the ultimate god of punishment to appear. Yes, that ancient desolate divine spirit has abducted countless geniuses. It has already affected the future of the chaos. We have to control it. I wonder what the ultimate god thinks. He probably wants to suppress the ancient desolate divine spirit. Otherwise, he wouldn't have called us here. Some great Tao divine spirits definitely did not like peace. Peace meant that they couldn't show their power, which meant that they couldn't enjoy their status. Han Tuo and Yi Tian were expressionless and did not participate in their discussion. Not long after, the ultimate god of punishment appeared. All the great Tao divine spirits bowed. The ultimate god of punishment scanned everyone and said, I called you here today for one thing, which is the ancient desolate. The ultimate god of punishment's eyes were sharp. We won't interfere. Whoosh! All the great Tao divine spirits were moved. They didn't expect such an order. He thought that the ultimate god of punishment would definitely suppress the ancient desolate divine spirit. He had only been in seclusion and did not know about this. Han Tuo frowned. He also wanted to go to the ancient desolate and save some of his good friends. Now, More than 100,000 geniuses had gone missing in the ancient desolate. Dao devils were also running rampant in the chaos. They captured geniuses everywhere and brought them back to the ancient desolate, causing all the living beings in the chaos to be terrified and uneasy. They were waiting for the great Tao divine spirit to take action and resolve this danger. The ultimate god of punishment glanced at Tian and said, "I've already reached an agreement with the ancient desolate divine spirit. His goal is only to take revenge on the heavenly Tao and not threaten the chaos." As for those words, they were deliberately spread by the Dark Forbidden Lord's minions. The geniuses captured by the ancient desolate are not dead. Instead, they will obtain a huge opportunity. The great Tao divine spirits looked at each other. Han Tuo couldn't help but ask, "Does the heavenly Tao not care anymore?" The divine robed Taoist frowned. The heavenly Tao was under his jurisdiction. Not to mention his loyalty to Hanju, he would also be affected once the ancient desolate divine spirit attacked. The ultimate god of punishment said, "The heavenly Tao suppressed the ancient desolate divine spirit. Could it be that we won't let the ancient desolate divine spirit take revenge? It's fine as long as it doesn't threaten the chaos. The peace of the chaos is the overall situation. We can't implicate the entire chaos over a personal grudge. For the heavenly Tao today, who will it be tomorrow? We great Tao divine spirits want to protect the order and control all living beings, not resolve grudges for all living beings everywhere. The grudges in this world can't be resolved at all." Many great Tao divine spirits nodded. In fact, the great Tao divine spirits were all unhappy with the heavenly Tao because it was too sharp. Especially that divine might heavenly sage. All living beings regarded him as the strongest. How could they stand it? That's right. Ultimate God is right. If the geniuses are fine, the ancient desolate won't threaten the chaos. Ultimate God is really powerful. So you've long contacted the ancient desolate divine spirit. The heavenly Tao's grudge should indeed not involve the chaos. Besides, didn't the Tao ancestor cause enough hatred for the heavenly Tao in the past? I think it's feasible. Han Tuo and Yi Tian's expressions turned ugly. The ultimate god of punishment knew their origins. By openly targeting the heavenly Tao, he was undoubtedly telling them that they were already abandoned. The ultimate god of punishment waved his sleeve and said, "All divine spirits are not allowed to interfere. If anyone dares to participate, their deity position will be removed." With that, he vanished. Han Tuo turned around and left. Yi Tian and the other 3 divine punishers hurriedly followed. The great Tao divine spirits smiled mockingly at them. They had always disliked the 5 great divine punishers. Their cultivation levels were low and they were still suppressing them. Fortunately, the ultimate god of punishment no longer cared about their reputation. After leaving the ultimate god world, a divine punisher caught up to Han Tuo and asked, "Brother, what do you want to do?" Han Tuo stopped. "I have to care about the heavenly Tao, but you don't have to. You can stay here." Among the 5 great divine punishers, Han Tuo and Yi Tian were the most famous, but the other 3 were not jealous. This was because every time they encountered a life and death crisis, Yi Tian and Han Tuo would try their best to save them, even if they might lose themselves. Their brotherhood was already indestructible. Yi Tian cursed. "What are you waiting for? We're all brothers. Why are you still playing such tricks? The 3 of you, listen up. Follow me to guard the heavenly Tao and fight the Tao devils." What ancestor Tian Su? What ancient desolate divine spirit? Won't his reputation increase if he's killed by the 5 of us? The 3 divine punishers smiled and shouted. They weren't afraid of anything. Han Tuo smiled helplessly, but his heart warmed. With brothers like this, what else could he ask for in life? "All right. Then we'll go together." Han Tuo laughed. He wasn't afraid that the ultimate god of punishment would hear him. Although the two sides did not say anything directly, they had already broken up. The 5 great divine punishers were about to leave when the divine-robed Taoist caught up. 5 divine punishers, don't be anxious. Why don't you wait in my Tao field? The divine-robed Taoist cupped his hands and smiled warmly. The 5 divine punishers looked at each other. Etion rolled his eyes and smiled. Then go. We'll talk when you're there. That's right, that's right. The divine-robed Taoist smiled and looked at him with admiration. Han Tuo hesitated for a moment but still nodded in agreement. The order regarding the ultimate god of punishment did not spread in the chaos, but as the great Tao divine spirits knew how to take sides, the forces heading to the ancient desolate began to decrease. The great Tao divine spirits looked high and mighty, but each controlled different major factions. Under the major factions, there were countless connections. They could send messages at the first level and have great influence. Any faction that had a foothold in the chaos would have their greatest backing on a great Tao divine spirit. Gradually, the ancient desolate calmed down. The heavenly Tao also sensed that something was wrong. In the universal hall, the sages gathered. Heavenly Venerate Wufa frowned. Recently, it seems that the various factions no longer target the ancient desolate, other than the forces of heaven and earth in this domain. Divine Might Buddha asked, is it because the ancient desolate is too strong? Something's wrong. Even the number of scouts has decreased by more than half. Pan Xian shook his head. A hint of fear appeared in his eyes at the mention of the ancient desolate. He had once tried to enter the ancient desolate, but he had returned in failure and almost died inside even with the killing Tao token. The sage's expressions were solemn. Unlike in the past, the enemy had already appeared this time, but he did not attack the heavenly Tao. The heavenly Tao knew where the other party was, but it couldn't do anything. How many mighty figures had gone to the ancient desolate and suffered a crushing defeat? The pressure on the heavenly Tao was naturally huge. Chou Shilai narrowed his eyes. I feel that someone might be pushing this matter from behind. Could it be that the ancient desolate divine spirit has negotiated with other factions? Their current goal is to flatten the heavenly Tao? The sages panicked. It was not impossible. After all, the ancient desolate divine spirit didn't say that he wanted to overturn the chaos. If the ancient desolate divine spirit only wanted to deal with the heavenly Tao, just like in the past, no one would help no matter how strong the heavenly Tao's enemies were. The sages nodded and felt that it made sense. Su Dudao smiled. In the past hundreds of thousands of years, our cultivation levels have increased one after another. I have to say that the providence of the heavenly Tao is indeed useful. I'm also about to attain freedom. Speaking of cultivation, the sages smiled. The providence of sacrificing the heavenly Tao caused the cultivation levels of all the sages to increase. 10 freedom sages had already been born and would continue to increase. The freedom sage was only referring to the cultivation realm here. The heavenly Tao sage was not as carefree as the freedom sage and was forever restricted by the heavenly Tao. Everyone's gaze landed on Heavenly Venerate Wufa, Heavenly Venerate Xiandu, and the 3 sages. They had the greatest hope. Although the sacred true martial Buddha of the Buddhist world was at the perfected freedom realm, he was still an outsider, after all. He couldn't use the providence of the heavenly Tao to break through. His cultivation had already been stuck for countless years. It was difficult for him to attain the great Tao without a huge opportunity. The 3 sages looked extremely confident in the eyes of the sages. They were determined to reach the great Tao realm. Especially Heavenly Venerate Xiandu. If he wanted to sit firmly on the second throne of the heavenly Tao, he had to cross the great Tao realm. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for him to convince the masses. Regarding the ancient desolate, continue to keep an eye on it. At the same time, the development of the heavenly Tao can't fall behind. We have to continue opening more chaotic heavenly roads. There aren't enough chaotic cities, either. We have to set up a tight defensive line. We won't give the Tao devils a chance to enter the heavenly Tao, Heavenly Venerate Xiandu instructed. The sages nodded and dispersed. Heavenly Venerate Xiandu revealed a worried expression when he was alone. The power of the ancient desolate divine spirit exceeded his imagination. Even teacher is not his match. Can the heavenly sage kill the ancient desolate divine spirit? Heavenly Venerate Xiandu thought silently. He recalled the calamities in the past. Hanju could always kill enemies forcefully. This was his confidence. If not for Hanju, how could he dare to return to the heavenly Tao without hesitation? In that case, I'll believe him until the end. Heavenly Venerate Xiandu thought firmly. He knew his limits. No matter how strong his management ability was, the heavenly Tao was still protected by the divine might heavenly sage. Logically speaking, he had to rely on Hanju now. Even if he returned to Laozi, he would only be ostracized. Only by walking a path to the end was it correct. Inside the Taoist temple, Hanju opened his eyes. The ultimate origin power in his body had transformed again in the past 100,000 years. It was extremely powerful. His current strength had already reached an indescribable level. With a glance, he could make the heavenly Tao cease to exist. So powerful. It was uncatchable, unfathomable, and unpredictable, but it contained a fatal and domineering destructive power. In a sense, Hanju was no longer a great Tao Supreme. He had reached an even stronger realm, but he was just inferior to a Tao creator. Hanju's gaze landed on the primordial world. The life fiend Celestial was hiding in a star to cultivate. During this period of time, 3 balls of fiend Celestial Chi transformed into chaotic fiend Celestials, and they lived in different places. At this rate, a large amount of fiend Celestial Chi would be successfully nurtured in the next million years. Hanju was looking forward to it. Although he was prepared to create the primordial chaos, he had no intention of giving up on the heavenly Tao. No matter what, in this life, all his footprints were in the heavenly Tao. He was a nostalgic person. He would protect the heavenly Tao if he could. It was not only his footprints. His old friends were all focused on the heavenly Tao. Unknowingly, Hanju had already taken on the responsibility of protecting the heavenly Tao. In the past, he would definitely resist, but now, he enjoyed it. This was strength. Hanju discovered that he looked at all the living beings in the heavenly Tao as if he was looking at his descendants. He felt an inexplicable familiarity. It was not only the humans. All the heavenly Tao race were the same. The heavenly Tao had all sorts of forms. The myriad worlds and mountains had their own styles. This was a vitality that other worlds in the chaos did not possess. The chaotic world had its own form, but it had no good intentions. The beauty of the heavenly Tao heaven and earth was in the vitality of all living beings, the unpredictable sun, moon, mountains, and rivers, and the emotions of all living beings. Hanju suddenly wanted to travel the immortal world again. To be precise, he wanted to travel the mortal world. He wanted to be immortal and experience the various forms of life. However, not for the time being. He had to kill the ancient desolate divine spirit first. Several hours later, he returned to the third Tao field and continued cultivating. It had been 1.4 million years since his last breakthrough. According to his estimation, he would break through to the perfected realm in at most 500,000 years. That would be the time of the ancient desolate divine spirit's death. Hanju was already looking forward to it. In the depths of the ancient desolate, in a vast lake, countless figures floated on the surface of the lake. They looked like corpses, but their bodies were intact. There were humans, demons, and devils. The surface of the lake was covered in fog, like a world of mist. It was murky in all directions. At this moment, Ancestor Tiansu and the ancient desolate divine spirit floated above the clouds and looked down at the countless figures on the lake. Divine Spirit, there are already 1 million ancient desolate clones and more than 100 billion Dao devils. When are we attacking? Ancestor Tiansu asked. The ancient desolate divine spirit replied, it's not enough. We have to be confident. The reason why the heavenly Dao can withstand several seemingly impossible calamities is that the enemy is not prepared enough and can't flatten the heavenly Dao in one go. Ancestor Tiansu became silent. He hesitated for a moment and said, the heavenly Dao is also preparing. The divine might heavenly sage's potential is unparalleled. He has been in seclusion recently. I'm afraid. The divine might heavenly sage's reputation was too resounding. Those battle achievements were enough to intimidate all the mighty figures in the chaos. The ancient desolate divine spirit said, I know how powerful he is, so I want to nurture a Dao devil. Cultivation slows down when one reaches the great Dao supreme realm. No matter how talented he is, it's impossible for him to surpass the great Dao supreme realm in millions of years. Ancestor Tiansu thought about it and felt that it made sense. He turned to look at the million geniuses on the lake, deep in thought. The battle of the heavenly Dao is very important. Not only are the great Dao divine spirits watching, but there are also those supreme existences. If they win, they will surpass the chaos from now on. If they lose, they will be doomed, the ancient desolate divine spirit said coldly. Ancestor Tiansu recalled the mysterious existence who had severed the ancient desolate and shivered. The chaos seemed to have entered their eyes, but there were also many unknown places and existences hidden. The higher one's cultivation level was, the greater their reverence for the chaos. Ancestor Tiansu shook his head and looked in the heavenly Dao's direction. An old figure appeared in his mind. Where are you now? Time passed quickly. Hanju was indifferent in the Taoist temple no matter how the chaos changed, as if time and everything had lost their meaning on him. He opened his eyes 3 times, which meant that 300,000 years had passed. This was the 3rd time. At this moment, 3 lines of notifications appeared in front of him. You are 9 million years old and your life has taken another step forward. You have the following choices. 1. Exit seclusion immediately and open the primordial chaos in the chaos. You can obtain a great Dao fragment, a creation spirit stone, and a primordial fragment. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner and stay away from trouble. You can obtain a great Dao fragment, a creation spirit stone, and a primordial fragment. Such an option was not surprising. Only when he was 10 million years old would he receive a huge reward. Hanju silently chose the second option. This time, he did not use the creation spirit stone to create a chaotic fiend celestial because the primordial world could already nurture chaotic fiend celestials itself. He would save it up and use it in the future. He continued to cultivate. He wasn't far from breaking through. Hanju only had one goal now. He hoped to personally go to the Ancient Desolate before the Ancient Desolate Divine Spirit made a move. On the other side, in the Great Dao Breakthrough Domain, Han Huang, the Divine Robe Taoist, and the 5 Divine Punishers gathered here. In these hundreds of thousands of years, the remaining 3 Divine Punishers had also reached the Great Dao realm. After hearing everyone's words, Han Huang was furious and cursed. What leader of the Divine Spirits? I think he's just afraid of the Ancient Desolate Divine Spirit. If not for Father not letting me out, I really want to flatten the Ancient Desolate. Han Tuo shook his head. Although you're a great Dao sage, You're still far from defeating the ancient desolate divine spirit. Han Huang frowned in displeasure. Tian cursed. It's fine. There's still time. There's been no movement in the ancient desolate. They're probably afraid of my godfather. Divine Punisher Chfa said, I'm guessing that the ancient desolate divine spirit is still creating Tao devils. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, the number of Tao devils in the ancient desolate had already reached an immeasurable number. The ancient desolate divine spirit is still at it because he's afraid of repeating the defeat of the 10,000 divine authority generals. Since they were close, Han Huang would not be polite. He would say it directly if he was unhappy. He believed that he was already powerful enough. He was already 2 million years old and cultivated diligently every day. Even if he was inferior to his father, he felt that very few people in the chaos were his match. It was just that he had no chance to show off. Off? Han Huang snorted. Han Tuo said, that's right, it's the three pure sacred world. Laozi went to the ancient desolate and was severely injured. After that, traces of Tao devils were detected in the three pure sacred world. Laozi has probably already been possessed by the ancient desolate divine spirit. The divine robed Taoist nodded and sighed. We underestimated the ancient desolate. It looks calm, but it's probably plotting to surround the heavenly Tao. The great Tao divine spirit is one, and the three pure sacred world is another. When the ancient desolate divine spirit attacks. He did not continue, but everyone understood. Han Huang nodded. I understand. I'll inform them. With that, he vanished. Tian scratched his head and smiled. This kid is really anxious. He's even more anxious than me. Han Tuo shook his head and laughed. The divine robed Taoist smiled. He's not in a hurry to cultivate. After his consciousness returned to his body, Han Huang directly visited Xing Hongshen. She could contact the hidden sect disciples. There was no need to alarm Hanju. After knowing this, Xing Hongshen entered the myriad worlds projection. This matter quickly reached Heavenly Venerate Shen Du's ears. Heavenly Venerate Shen Du moved very quickly and began to deploy defenses against the invasion of the three pure sacred world. Hanju didn't know about this. Even if he knew, he wouldn't care. The three pure sacred world was nothing in his eyes. He already felt the opportunity to break through, so he naturally had to work harder. 10,000 years passed in a flash. 3,000 years later, he successfully broke through. There were no difficulties. In front of the ultimate origin fiend celestial, there was no realm tribulation. It was just constantly accumulating cultivation and constantly surpassing the limit. Perfected Great Tao Supreme. Perfected Great Tao. Hanju's ultimate origin power transformed. The primordial world expanded crazily and the nebulous primordial chi in the world increased even more, startling the chaotic fiend celestials who were cultivating. At this point, they knew that there was a mysterious and powerful force in the primordial world. They treated it as an illusory immortal. Hanju opened his eyes and checked his attributes panel as he consolidated his cultivation. Name, Hanju. Lifespan, 927,050/15兆09999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999 万9999 999兆9999亿9999万9999 999 Race, ultimate origin fiend celestial, immeasurable emperor. Cultivation, perfected great Tao supreme realm, perfect sage. Technique, primordial chaos reincarnation great Tao, heavenly cycle body tempering. Great Tao of life and death, great Tao of karma, great Tao of extreme origin. Constitution, Extreme Tao Ultimate Origin Body. Hanju was filled with a sense of achievement upon looking at such a long lifespan. This was his original intention in cultivation. This breakthrough was as he had expected. The ultimate origin power increased exponentially, exceeding 10 times before the breakthrough. When he was still a primordial fiend celestial, every breakthrough brought about greater and greater strength, let alone now when he had already surpassed the primordial fiend celestial. Hanju finally consolidated his cultivation after thousands of years. Then, he began to cultivate the grand unity aspect. 81 years later, he finally gathered all 3,000 fiend celestial dharma idols. This time, he even learned the creation fiend celestial. Yusin. The power of the 3,000 great Tao was in his grasp. The primordial world shook when he condensed the remaining fiend celestial chi. This vibration could not be felt in the world, but Hanju felt it clearly. It could be said to be world-shattering, causing his soul to tremble. Time passed. 5,000 years later. The Taoist temple shone with red light. Hanju's robes fluttered and he emitted a great divine might. He slowly opened his eyes and looked at his hands. They were clean and white. There was nothing unusual on his palms, but in fact, they were wrapped in ultimate origin power. This ultimate origin power was mighty. Hanju smiled and muttered, "Ancient desolate divine spirit, you're going to die. I want to know if I can insta-kill the ancient desolate divine spirit? 100 trillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue?" "Continue. There is a certain chance." "Wasn't it 100%? It seemed to be related to those clones. Can the ancient desolate divine spirit kill me if I take it seriously?" "No." Hanju smiled. That was good. He began the simulation trial and challenged 300,000 foolish sword sages. This mystical power was called the Ultimate Origin Heaven Seal. The Ultimate Origin Heaven Seal contained the characteristics of imprisonment, destruction, creation, space, time, slaughter, and so on. 10 breaths later, Hanju opened his eyes. With one move, the Ultimate Origin Heaven Seal directly crushed 300,000 foolish sword sages. The preparation time is a little long. I have to activate it instantly. The suction force has to be greater. No, I have to directly use the power of space to move the enemy in, Hanju muttered to himself. He had a thought and continued. After several simulation trials, he easily insta-killed 300,000 foolish sword sages. Then, he increased the number of foolish sword sages. Several days later, he easily insta-killed the 1,000,000 foolish sword sages. He was invincible with the Ultimate Origin Heaven Seal. How lonely. Hanju wanted to switch opponents, but he had already developed feelings and didn't want to change after fighting with the foolish sword sage for a long time. Moreover, the foolish sword sage was not bad either. He was truly a great Tao Supreme. Hanju didn't increase the number anymore. He already had an estimation of his strength. Besides, he had also deduced that he indeed had the power to insta-kill the ancient desolate divine spirit. Hanju stood up and walked out of the Taoist temple. He first visited Xinghongshan and Qingwaner before going to Han Huang's Taoist temple. After so many years, Han Huang was already at the late-stage Great Tao Primordial Chaos Realm. Not bad, Hanju thought as he said, "Huangler." Han Huang suddenly opened his eyes in shock. His father had actually silently arrived at his Taoist temple. He did not sense anything. Could it be that the difference between them was still so great? Han Huang had mixed feelings. He had thought that even if he was inferior to his father, the difference would not be as great as before. "Now, Father!" Han Huang stood up and bowed. Hanju smiled. Your cultivation has been good recently. It will take some time. I won't stop you if you want to go to the chaos. You should grow up. Han Huang looked up in surprise. His cultivation was already at the top level of the chaos and he could already be independent. He also yearned to be independent, but he was afraid of causing trouble for his father. After all, the fact that he was Hanju's biological son was very difficult to hide. As long as Hanju had enemies, they would definitely use him as a breakthrough point. Father, why do you suddenly say that? Han Huang asked in confusion. I'm happy. Thank you, Father. Han Huang knelt down excitedly. He only knelt down to Hanju. Not even Xing Hongshen deserved it. Then, Hanju found Han Qing'er. The father and daughter chatted longer, mainly because of Han Qing'er. Hanju sighed upon looking at the chattering Han Qing'er. He felt closer to his daughter. It was as if she was still the same. Han Huang was not as cute as when he was young, so the father and son did not talk as much as before. The next day, Hanju teleported to the main Dao field and jumped into the universal hall outside the 33rd heaven. Only Heavenly Venerate Xian Du was meditating and cultivating in the hall. Hanju called out. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du woke up and hurriedly stood up to bow when he saw him. Hanju waved his hand and smiled. Sit down. Let's chat. Hanju said, to ask about the Heavenly Dao and the Ancient Desolate. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du immediately began to report. The Heavenly Dao was still developing at a high speed. Currently, there were more than 100 chaotic heavenly roads and countless chaotic cities in all directions. All sorts of array formations had been set up. The Heavenly Dao would not panic even if the three pure sacred world and the Ancient Desolate attacked now. As for the Ancient Desolate, there was still no movement. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du looked at Hanju and said, Heavenly Sage, so far, the Ancient Desolate Divine Spirit is either recuperating or accumulating strength. It won't attack the Heavenly Dao for the time being. You still have time to cultivate, and the Heavenly Dao also has time to prepare. Hanju said, how many geniuses of the Heavenly Dao have been captured by the Ancient Desolate? Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said in a low voice, more than 500, including sages. Continue according to your plan. Hanju stood up and left. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du looked at his back and hesitated. He finally sighed after he disappeared. He had already seen the situation clearly. The Ancient Desolate Divine Spirit was not alone and helpless. He had already obtained the support of the Great Dao Divine Spirits. The truly helpless one was the Heavenly Dao. This was not the first time, but this time, the situation was even more serious than before. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du stopped thinking and closed his eyes to cultivate. Against the Ancient Desolate Divine Spirit, it still depended on the Divine Might Heavenly Sage. He just had to protect the Heavenly Dao. Hanju came to the Foolish Sword Sage's Dao field. He was pretty surprised to see Hanju. The two of them began to chat. The Foolish Sword Sage had gone to the Ancient Desolate several times and was severely injured, but he could escape every time. After all, he was an existence who could escape from Hanju. Old fool, don't go to the Ancient Desolate in the future. Guard the Heavenly Dao, Hanju reminded with a concerned tone. The Foolish Sword Sage was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. He immediately stomped his feet. Ancestor Tian Su is impressive, but give me time, I'll kill him sooner or later. The Foolish Sword Sage said angrily. He had always wanted to prove his strength in front of Hanju, but the enemy was stronger. Hanju smiled and said, Old fool, I know best how powerful you are. Are you in a hurry? Ancestor Tian Su will die sooner or later. Why fuss about the dead? The Divine Might Heavenly Sage was still the most eloquent. This was also the thing that the foolish sword sage admired the most about Hanju. He had clearly proved his strength, but he was never stingy with his praise when facing people weaker than him. Heavenly Sage, you said that Ancestor Tiansu is going to die? The foolish sword sage sat down and asked curiously. Hanju smiled and said, that's right. I'm preparing to go to the ancient desolate. Didn't the divine might Heavenly Sage only guard the heavenly Tao and not attack distant enemies? The foolish sword sage immediately became excited. I want to go too. I want to see Ancestor Tiansu begging for mercy in front of you. Thinking of Ancestor Tiansu's arrogance, he was furious. No! The heavenly Tao needs someone to guard it to prevent others from taking advantage of my absence, Hanju reminded him. The foolish sword sage felt that it made sense. The two of them chatted for a while before Hanju returned to the Taoist temple. He left a wisp of his will in the Taoist temple to prevent himself from dying outside and being unable to revive. He was about to leave when Han Huang suddenly came to visit. Hanju hesitated for a moment but still let him in. Father, after thinking about it, I feel that something is wrong. Are you preparing to go to the ancient desolate? Is that why you said that I can go out in the future? Han Huang asked with a burning gaze. Hanju nodded. Han Huang suppressed his excitement and said, Father, bring me along. I want to see your true glory. I can protect myself even if I can't help you now, right? I've already followed the mystical power you taught me and sent a wisp of my soul into the Taoist temple. I can revive even if I die outside. Hanju stared at him. Han Huang looked at his father fearlessly. After a long while, Hanju smiled and said, then let's go together. With that, the father and son vanished from the Taoist temple and arrived in the chaos. A red light under their feet carried them forward. The surrounding spatial turbulence quickly retreated. The red light shone on the father and son, making Han Huang extremely excited. Father, we're out? What space is this? I can't see through it. Father, what's your cultivation level? Hanju only smiled. The ultimate origin power formed this spatial tunnel. It was independent of the chaos and could go anywhere without being discovered. Apart from the ultimate origin fiend celestial, no one could forcefully barge in. Hanju would also create mystical powers during his cultivation. For example, this spatial tunnel was formed by a mystical power and couldn't be taught to others. Only the ultimate origin fiend celestial could master it. Seeing that Hanju did not want to answer, Han Huang could only ask, Father, what are you going to do when we reach the ancient desolate? Hanju said, suppress. Han Huang asked, you'll forcefully fight? No plan? What if the other party escapes? That was true. Han Huang clenched his fists as his blood boiled. This was the first time he went out to fight an enemy with his father. Han Huang had never killed an enemy after living for 2 million years. At most, he had fought in the simulation trial. He had long felt that the simulation trial was meaningless. He wanted a true battle. He glanced at his father. His supreme treasures were slowly emitting light. Hanju's aura kept increasing, making his heart palpitate. How strong was his father? Han Huang was filled with anticipation. He could see his father's glory in the next battle. His father was usually gentle and was not as fierce as those great Tao sages. However, he knew that once he entered battle, his father would definitely be in a different state. He really wanted to reach the ancient desolate as soon as possible. Han Huang thought. At this moment, a circle of light appeared in front of him. Hanju's voice sounded, we're here.